You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am solo dolo for you today. But we're gonna have a lot of fun today. We're gonna go through lots of different things here, help you do everything we can to help you win at some fantasy football, and get your lineup set, get your things going here as we kick off here into NFL Week 7. Also affectionately known as Bimageddon, Bipocalypse, Binado. I've heard all the different names out there and a ton of different ways folks have used to describe this week and how they really feel about some of the things going on here. You've got a lot of teams out here with really impactful fantasy teams that just are not available due to bye. But you've also got a lot of folks out there, a lot of players unavailable for you because they are injured out there as well. So there's some definite things and some things that you're going to have to navigate here through differently than you probably have at any other point during the season. And this is probably one of the biggest weeks that I've seen that is impacted fantasy the hardest over the last few years as well. So we're going to do, and when I say we, I mean me, I'm going to do everything that I can to help you guys out there with your fantasy start sit questions, with your, any of your fantasy questions, throw them out there in the chat, right? Let's talk through it. Let's work through these things together. Let's have some fun with it. And it should be a really, really good time there. In fact, we've got our first question coming in on YouTube. Denise asks the best way around Bimageddon. That is a really good question. And so this is one of those that with Bimageddon, it really is a function of the fact that you've got a lot of very high impact players that are just not available for you this week. So when you look at it, the Bills are on bye, the Cowboys are on bye, the Vikings are on bye. Those are three teams with a bunch of very high-powered players out there. So it starts becoming a different type of thing where you're really looking for guys that can fulfill a certain role and are looking at that. And so there's two ways around that, Denise. If you're looking at it where you're a team that's projected to win and has a strong roster and was able to mitigate some of the buys and some of the injuries just due to your roster construct there, and you've got somebody that you need to fill in, well, you're looking for a guy that's going to have kind of a safe floor there and somebody that's going to get you kind of guaranteed points, things like that. If you're projected to lose, if you were hit really hard on this thing, you're looking for folks out there that can absolutely come through and deliver high upside for you, right? Like you're looking for guys that you're going to be able to take a swing on, right? Like Dante Pettis would be a guy that kind of sticks out on that one. The Giants are down several pass catchers this week, just due to injury. Couple that with the fact that you've got a lot of other guys out there that aren't going to go, but Dante Pettis is a guy that not many folks are looking at, but he has some upside there as well. So that could be an interesting type of matchup there, right? Some other things is staying away from murky kind of situations, right? Like a lot of folks are riding high on Khalil Herbert last week from that big performance he had, right? We just saw that Damian Williams cleared the COVID protocol list yesterday and is rejoining the team. That's one that in my own home league, I'm looking to pivot away from, just from the standpoint that Khalil Herbert and Damian Williams will likely share the backfield there. And now you're talking about a deal where a guy, instead of getting like 25 opportunities, may get about 15 when it's all said and done. Couple that with the fact that Tampa's got an amazing run defense, only allowing less than 55 yards on average to opposing running backs. And they're one of the best teams in the league at giving up few points to opposing running backs there. So that would be a situation that I'm looking to avoid and, potentially going out there and more swinging for the fences. But great question. Thanks for throwing that one out there. Phillies on YouTube, bye weeks in a 16-team league got me down bad. I can agree. Those 16-team leagues sometimes can be a tough road to navigate anyway, just from the standpoint that you've got so many additional players in there that, sometimes you're stuck having to play some of these guys that aren't necessarily, that wouldn't be a playable option in a 10-team or 12-team league type of thing. So I hear you. And the fact that you couple that in with all the injuries out there and the buys out there, that can be definitely a tough one. But Phillies, let's go ahead and get to your next question here. Ty Johnson or David Johnson? This is a really good one. It's a full PPR league. And the fact that you're talking full PPR there, I'm probably going to lean towards Ty Johnson. I'm sorry, David Johnson. Sorry, I got my Johnsons wrong there. But I'm probably going to lean towards David Johnson in this one. Couple of reasons why. The Jets are playing the Patriots here. There's a chance that you see the Jets shy away from the run, have to shy away from the run game moving forward in that one. The game's projected to be a one possession type of game. How it ends right now, it looked like the Patriots are favored by a touchdown. So there's a chance that game stays close enough that the run game is relevant and can do some big things there for you. But on the opposite end, I would not surprise me if you see the Jets get down and have to try and come back and really move more towards a passing game there. And at that point, I like the Jets pass catchers better than some of those running backs there. Plus, you've also got the murky backfield with Michael Carter in there, and they've been looking to try and really mix him into the run there. So Ty Johnson's not a bad one, but if I've got David Johnson to pivot to, I'm going to pivot to David Johnson. I think that Cardinals Houston game is going to be a blowout when it's all said and done. And Vegas, has a similar opinion when you're looking at that one because of the fact that the Cardinals are favored by 18 in that game. And so in that particular one, the Texans are going to be down. You're going to see lots of passing having to happen in order to try and keep that game close and try and just stay up into that. A lot of garbage time type of points for the Texans side of things. And the Cardinals defense has been good. But that being the case, and that being said, when you look at this thing fully, the fact that it's a full PPR, you'll probably see David Johnson somewhere around 6-7 catches in this one. And it's not going to surprise me, him getting 6-7 catches for about 50 yards type of thing. And that's probably better than what you're going to get out of Ty Johnson, who I think probably, his rushing work, it may get him around 40 or 50 yards. So I'll take the PPR upswing on that one. And that the receptions will be the difference maker in that one. So absolutely love the question. Thanks for throwing it out there, guys. If you have any questions from start sits, anything out there from buy a get in, make sure that you throw them out there and I'll answer them and get to them. For our folks listening and viewing over on Twitter, right now, I don't have the ability to take your comments that you put on Twitter and put them up here on the screen, but I am keeping an eye out for your Twitter questions there as well, and we'll do everything I can to bring those to light and answer those for you here as well. Phillies fan chiming in saying, thanks, man. Absolutely appreciate it. That's what we're here for, is to try and help you guys go out there and get that cash and trophies for your fantasy. AC is asking on Facebook, how do you feel about Ertz in the Cardinals offense? Well, this week, I'm not feeling very bullish on the Cardinals pass catchers. And it has to do more with the fact that it has more to do with the fact that the Cardinals, I think, are going to get up big in this game and not look back, to the point where you're going to see, I think, a very heavy dose of James Conner in the second half of this one. And that's a guy that I'd be looking to play. That doesn't happen often, where it's a James Conner type of week where I'm really excited to go out there and play him and put him in my lineups. But I think James Conner is going to be a very sneaky play that a lot of people will overlook. Just due to game script, I think that the Cardinals will run the ball. And this will probably be a week where you may see James Conner get 15 rush attempts. It's not going to surprise me to see that happen and see him really tote the rock there. So I'm not a fan of him this week, but I like him overall in that Cardinals offense. I like the fact that Kyler is, he's on an MVP type of tear, and he really is doing some amazing things there, and he's spreading the ball around. Max Williams was fantasy relevant as far as some tight ends go in the Cardinals offense this year, and I think that continues. I think Zach Ertz may be a better pass catcher than Max Williams was, and I think he fits well into an air raid type of system and how the Cardinals are going to be able to utilize him. Far better than a lot of other systems out there, because of the fact that Zach Ertz is a great pass catching tight end, not necessarily a great run blocking tight end. So that being the case, he'll do well, and I think that the Cardinals will utilize him in a way that's going to maximize his skill set and be able to really do a bunch of different things there. So I like it. I like him long term, season long in that one. Phillies on YouTube is asking or saying he's got one more full PPR, Julio Jones, Hunter Renfrow. I am going to go with Hunter Renfrow, and I'm not going to think twice about it. And that may sound a little odd out there just off of name value, things like that. But there's several things that are factoring into this one. We've seen Julio Jones miss games already with a hamstring issue. He's kind of in that age bracket where some of those soft tissue injuries kind of linger and have a tendency to creep back up through the season on this one. I believe we saw him miss time last year with the hamstring out there as well. So, looking at it, this hamstring seems to be a lingering issue that keeps kind of popping up, and to the point where last week, after having missed some games and coming back off of a similar injury there, he ended up making an early exit in that game. And while he's going to go out there and give it a go, things like that, I'm not necessarily looking to start Julio Jones unless I absolutely have to, because there's going to be times out here where you've got to start him because it is Bimageddon. The injuries have happened. All of these different types of things out there really are playing into some of that. So, looking at it from that aspect, I don't necessarily like Julio from that aspect. Hunter Renfrow is showing more and more that he is, a viable PPR option on this one. Philadelphia, is ranked fairly well against points allowed to opposing wide receivers. But we've seen Hunter Renfrow make hay even against good passing defenses there. The Raiders, I think, are going to win that particular game. The fact that it'll be a closer one, though, means that I think you'll see Hunter Renfrow be utilized in that one. Same thing with Darren Waller. I think he'll be utilized pretty well. So I do like some of the pass catching options for Las Vegas out there, more so than the Julio there. If I'm looking at that Tennessee game, I'm probably looking to pivot more to maybe a Ferkser, the tight end over there in Tennessee. I might be looking to pivot to some different type of options there. But Julio's not a bad option if you have to start him and that's what you're down to. I just like the some other options there. Carr or Burrow, again, that's a good one there. And that's going to be a tough one there because both of those teams, I think, will have some good relevance there. But man, looking at that thing, I'm probably going to look at going with a, what, when in doubt on that one and it doesn't come easy, we're going to head right over here to our rankings and utilize the tool that I've spent some time looking at. And on my own rankings there, I've got Derek Carr at number 10. I've got Joe Burrow at number 9. So they are back to back in my rankings. And that's part of the reason that's so tough for me. But that being the case, I'm going to lean the Joe Burrow route because that's how I have it ranked. And I think that he'll be able to do some big things there. The Baltimore has been stingy against opposing wide receivers, but Jamar Chase is a difference maker and can do that to the point where they may have to shift some things around and focus on him. And I kind of like Tyler Boyd as a play in that game as well. I think he's got some sneaky upside there this week, especially in a PPR type of deal. AC asking on Waller's status. I haven't seen anything pop through saying that he is not going to play, anything like that. Let me pull that up here real quick, and I'll get back to your question on that one here in just a moment. Question coming in on Facebook: Corey Davis or Jacoby Myers? Man, that is a really good one there as well. New England's been pretty good against some of the from a defensive standpoint. But I'm going to lean, as much as I like Corey Davis this season, I'm going to lean the Jacoby Myers route. I think this might be the week that we see him finally get into the end zone and score some touchdowns there. His first one in forever. So that's where I'm going to lean. I'm going to lean the Jacoby Myers stage. The Jets have been very, very bad against opposing running backs as far as points allowed this season, to the point where you've seen opposing teams put up just points after points after points, and it effectively kind of takes the passing game out of it. But I think that you'll see enough work come early on that you'll see some relevance out of Jacoby Myers, and you'll probably see him get, I've got him statted out here for about 6 to 7 receptions, about 60 yards, and I think he falls in that touchdown. So making him very, very viable on that one. Whereas I think Corey Davis doesn't get the touchdown there, and I see him probably getting around about 6 receptions for about 50 yards when it's all said and done. So great question there. That one coming from Ryan over there on Facebook. Absolutely appreciate it. Alrighty, so heading over to the Twitter, got a question coming in there. Need to pick up a tight end due to mine being out for injuries. Top 3 available tight ends are Seals, Jones, Ertz, Engram. Who is the best pickup? This is another really, really fun question, really good question here. Thanks to Nanan over there on Twitter for throwing that one out there. So let's kind of walk through this thing and go through it together here. When we're looking at Seals, Jones, we're looking at Ertz, we're looking at Engram. All of those guys present some very big upside there to the point where they're very, very viable options. So we'll just kind of go through it line by line here. We already talked about Ertz up there in the previous question, and I think that holds true to the point where unless he gets a lot of work early on in that game, I don't see him getting a full four quarters worth of work. I think that the Cardinals will be game scripted at that point to have a very big running second half there. So I'm not necessarily liking Ertz tremendously this week. As far as Evan Engram goes, right, the Giants are without pass catchers or without a lot of receiving options there, because you got Golladay out, Shepard out, Saquon is out. So they are very hit by the injury bug right now, to the point where Evan Engram will be a focal point of that offense and will get a lot of the check down work. Kadarius Toney also out over there as well. So the guys that they were going to have in the slot type of role, running short to intermediate type of routes there, which is where Evan Engram is going to feast, is out. So that makes him a viable option. I think he'll get some decent workload there, but I'm not necessarily a big fan as far as Evan Engram goes this week. The Giants are playing what has been at times a very tough Carolina defense, and other times they've been a not so tough Carolina defense. But that being the case, I'm still looking at going with Ricky Seals-Jones in this one. The Washington football team is favored or is projected to lose that game by more than a single possession, right? So the Vegas has that thing statted out to be about a 2-possession type of game. So when it's all said and done, Washington will be down in this one, as far as I kind of see it as well, and are going to have to be chasing and having to play catch up and having to come behind on that one. Whereas I think the Giants and the Panthers may be a little bit closer there, and you may see a little bit more of a balanced game script when it's all said and done. But looking at it, Washington football team, McLaurin is still banged up. It looks like he's going to go and he's going to play. I think that he's going to have a pretty decent game. You've got Antonio Gibson, who is dealing with that stress fracture in his shin. I think J.D. McKissick gets a ton of run out there on that one. Curtis Samuel is not really going to be much of an option out there for you. So Ricky Seals-Jones really kind of steps that one up there for me in this particular matchup, and I think that he's going to have a very good game there. Another question coming in on Twitter. What about Tyler Higbee or Mark Andrews? That's a smash the Mark Andrews button all day for me. I think that Mark Andrews will feast. He is a guy that that Lamar is looking to early and often. I've got Mark Andrews ranked as the second overall tight end this week, behind only one Mr. Travis Kelce. And Mark Andrews has kind of taken himself out of that tight end dependent type of relevancy for touchdowns, right? Like there was a long time there where, the big season that he had a couple of years ago when Lamar won the MVP, he had to score touchdowns to be very fantasy relevant there. And he was a guy that was putting him up at averaging just shy of a touchdown a game. So right now he's getting the volume. That passing pie has gotten bigger when you're looking at the Baltimore Ravens offense there. Lamar is throwing at a higher clip. They're not necessarily running the ball. And I think that's also a function to, some of those injuries they sustained in the running back core. And, the fact that they have yet to, they've got kind of that carousel and that rotation going constantly, makes it that way there for me as well. So looking at YouTube, Mojo Music chiming in, Allen Robinson, Julio Jones, or Tyler Lockett. Man, oh man. We all had very high hopes for these guys coming into the season. Tyler Lockett, it produced very early on. Julio has been banged up. Allen Robinson seem to have a hard time finding him out there, which is interesting for a guy that has been 150 target type of guy the last couple of seasons. But so let's go through and let's walk through this one here. Already answered the Julio Jones a little bit earlier in the segment, but we're just going to briefly touch on that one. Julio is still dealing with that hamstring injury. I am looking to pivot from him if I can. And in this case, it looks like you can. So that becomes a Tyler Lockett. That becomes an Allen Robinson. So it comes down to, who do you really trust in this one? The Bears are playing Tampa Bay. So the Bears are playing Tampa Bay. The Seahawks are playing the Saints. The Saints have been a pretty decent overall defense there, to the point where the run game may get shut down in that when they allow very few points to opposing running backs, but they allow a lot of points to opposing wide receivers. The problem that you have is Geno Smith. Geno Smith just doesn't look for Tyler Lockett when he's out there. He hyper targets, he locks in on DK Metcalf, which I think will continue to be the case. So I am not necessarily looking for Tyler Lockett to be a hyper targeted type of guy. Tampa Bay has shown many, many times that they are very stout against the run. They may have some issues with being able to rock and roll the they may have some issues as far as that secondary goes, and that secondary a little banged up, things like that. But in this particular case, I'm going to go with Allen Robinson, and this is going to be kind of the last week that I look to play Allen Robinson, simply because the matchup looks better on paper there, because of the fact that I think that you're going to see Tampa Bay get out to an early lead. They're projected, the spread on this one is 11.5 points. So it's projected to almost be a 2-touchdown type of game. The Bears are going to be trailing, going to have to be throwing. I think you finally see the Justin Fields have to throw the ball 30, 40 times in a game here just to try and keep this thing close. The fact that defense, I think, is going to make that happen. So I'm going to go Allen Robinson out of those three. Hope that helps you out there, Mujo Music. Another question coming in, or statement coming in from Jeremy over there on Facebook. I'm forced to play Robinson today. Not thrilled. I don't blame you. Watch out for Mooney. Maybe I could see that one happening. It seems like Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney have a better connection there, and sometimes that chemistry has a lot to do with the player's fantasy relevance there. We see that one happen on a guy from the previous question with Tyler Lockett, right? Like, when Russ is out there, Tyler Lockett's out there. Those two have a phenomenal chemistry, and Russ looks to him early and often in those games there. So, I think that the fact that you're going to have to see the Bears really throw the ball in order to try and stay in this one, makes both of those guys a viable option for you. Denoogle on YouTube, Waddle, Renfro, Lockett have to play 2 or 3. I like the Lockett, or I like the Waddle play on this one. Tua is locked on to, like, Waddle is one of the best receiving options. In fact, he's about the only receiving option outside of Gesicki in that Miami offense. It looks like Devontae Parker is going to be inactive in this one. It looked like he may try and play, but saw the notification before we went live that he is going to be out this week. So it's not going to surprise me to see Jalen Waddle hyper targeted and him get 10 plus targets in this one. So I'm going to absolutely take the volume play on that one. Looking further into it, we've got Renfro, we've got Lockett. We're going to head over here and just take a look at some of the rankings and how I saw that one play it out there. Tyler Lockett, I've got him as a fringe wide receiver 2 right now. Hunter Renfro is going to be just outside of that. So while they are close, I am going to have to tell you Lockett, but I'm not necessarily thrilled about that one. And so I think, too, it's also going to come down to Danugle, what your roster construct is looking like there. I think Lockett has the better ceiling. I think Renfro has the better floor on it. So if you're projected to win, and your roster construct looks like you're going to beat your opponent there, and you just need some guaranteed points in that spot, I like Renfro for that. Tyler Lockett, he has that ability still to catch a big one and take it to the house. I don't necessarily see that happening, but I see these guys probably getting similar targets, somewhere around 6, 7 targets this week. And Tyler Lockett can house one of those, but at the same time, Hunter Renfro is going to, just get that kind of consistent volume there. And I see that's how that playing out. So Danugle, to answer your question more succinctly, I would play Waddle. And then as far as the other two go, I would play Renfro if I need a safer floor play for my matchup, and Lockett if I need a higher ceiling. But I do have Lockett ranked higher between the two, if that helps you out. Hopefully it does. Guys, absolutely loving all of the interaction. Appreciate you guys chiming in, throwing your questions out here. This is always a lot of fun getting to interact with you guys and be able to answer your questions, and very much appreciate you guys allowing me into your fantasy experience here and helping you guys try and win those cash and trophies. That's what we try and do over here at the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. So absolutely appreciate you guys allowing us to be along for the journey with you. And AC, I have not forgotten your question earlier. I have not seen really anything out there as far as Darren Waller not playing, not sitting. And if you've got Darren Waller, while he hasn't been necessarily what you drafted him to play, and I'm just making sure, like, he's still a game time decision there. And so it's tough to say because of the fact that it is, it looks like it's a practice injury that happened late in the week. So we don't necessarily know. It's always rough when you're looking at it and a player goes from full participant practice, and then on that Friday, Saturday shows up on those last injury reports there. And the fact that he is going to be a game time decision makes it a little bit tougher to utilize and know. So I am, if Waller's out there and he's going to play, you gotta play him. But AC, you've also got to make sure that you've got a backup there ready to roll, just in case, and you've got the flexibility on your roster to rock and roll that as well. So before these games kick off here in about 45 minutes or so, I would make sure that I have a pivot place that I can go to just in case Waller doesn't play. Now the Raiders are the late game there. So you'll want to make sure that you've got a player in the late set of games there as well, right? Like, this is one of those things, just kind of walking through some things with folks that, they look at it and they go, I've got a tight end that can go in case he doesn't play, but the tight end then plays in the early set of games and it locks and you miss out on that one. So just kind of walking through and a friendly reminder there for everybody that if you've got somebody that's questionable looking in the Sunday night game, the Monday night game, the afternoon slate of games today, make sure that you have got a place to pivot in this case where a guy like Waller is a game time decision and you don't know that he's going to play. Have that other guy on your bench ready to go, which may be a little bit tougher as far as that goes, but being able to do that. But you may still be able to find some guys out there that can do that, right? Like Cameron Brate, maybe a guy that's available in leagues. You may find a Danugal, I love the question. That's right where I was heading here. So let's go ahead and we'll explore this a little bit further. Appreciate you asking that question. All right, so looking at some decent replacement options for Waller since it's such a late game kickoff. You can look at it. Mo Alley Cox is a guy that is not rostered in a ton of leagues out there. Carson Wentz looks for him. That is this Sunday night game tonight with the Colts and the 49ers. So I like that option there. The Saints have another option out there as well that you can play. Juwan James has been a pretty serviceable tight end over there in New Orleans. He's very touchdown dependent, but the Saints have looked to him down there as well. So those are two good options for you. You can also look to a guy like a Cameron Brate and OJ Howard. Both of those guys are available. Gronkowski is out in that Tampa Bay Chicago game. So those are other options there as well. But the problem that you've got with that Tampa Bay tight end room is it's going to depend who falls into the end zone on that one if they score a touchdown there, which could happen. Antonio Brown's also out, so it frees up some additional targets there. And Antonio Brown has been working a lot out of that slot recently. So you may see a little bit of an uptick in the tight end work in Tampa Bay this week. But again, the fact that you're having to balance between two would lead me to really look at at a tight end in that Indianapolis, San Francisco game or the New Orleans Saints and Seattle game. And actually looking at that now as well, another guy in that Seattle game that not a lot of folks have been high on is Gerald Everett. He's a big athletic type of tight end that can make a play, things like that. And he's a big body target. So there would be three names that I would look at going for would be Mo Alley Cox, Juwan James, and Gerald Everett there. And Mo Alley Cox would be my first pick between those names there. So hopefully that answered your question to Noogle, and hopefully that helps you out there, AC, with the Waller question. Guys, I absolutely love all the interaction and love you guys chiming in here. Any other questions, any other thoughts, make sure that you get them out here quickly because we're going to get ready and wrap this thing up. So a couple of other things just to keep in mind here as far as friendly reminders, tips, tricks, things like that. We already talked about having a guy on your roster set as far as that looks like. Same thing too, right? If you've got some guys out there that you're going to put in your flex spot, but they play in the morning game and one of your running backs, wide receivers, things like that, maybe questionable, maybe a game time decision, things like that. Even though you would rather have that guy in a flex, like our Hunter Renfrow type of guy would be a guy that looks like that. You may have another wide receiver, set to go later on in the day, like a Michael Pittman type of thing, right? Like Michael Pittman's looked like he's been very good, just an example type of thing because he plays the Sunday night game. You would want to move Hunter Renfrow into your wide receiver, your starting wide receiver, and move Pittman to your flex, just because if something does happen through those things, you don't know if anytime that with the world today, you don't know what's going on with some of these players. They could, they can show up on an injury report. They can show up on a reserve list at any time. So that would be the kind of the helpful hint there would just be to make sure that you've got your the flexibility for the flex spot on that thing, and you've got pivot options to go through that one. This is a tough week though because of Buy-A-Geddon, Buy-Natal, Buy-Apocalypse, whatever disaster type of thing that you want to put after a bye. You could do that this week with all of the fantasy relevant options out there for that. So if you guys have any other questions, make sure that you get them out here. We're going to go ahead and wrap up here, and I absolutely appreciate you guys letting us into your fantasy football experience here on a Sunday morning. We do this show, and we do the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Show live 3 times a week. We go live on Tuesday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern. We go live on Friday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern. And then we do this Sunday morning show at 11:45 a.m. Eastern. to help you guys out with any start, sit questions, anything like that. The Tuesday show, we go heavy into the waiver wire, things like that, recapping games and giving some of our takes and that kind of stuff. And then the Friday games is all about the matchups, looking at this weekend there as well. We've got some great tips and pointers for you as far as that matchup. Those matchups go from that Friday show, broken down into individual videos, little 3 to 5 minute, bite-sized clips for you to ingest. Should you have any other questions, things like that, our thoughts on the games coming up this weekend. But guys, I do believe that that's going to take us to the end of it. I do absolutely appreciate everyone tuning in, chiming in. Very much enjoyed getting to interact with you guys and answer any of the questions that you have. But I am Derek, and I think that's going to call it a day for the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Do us a favor. Any other questions that you have, follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Good Old Boys FF. You can see it right there. And you can also hit us up on the YouTube channel. That's one of the best ways to support this independent podcast, is to head over to the YouTube channel and click subscribe. Ring that little bell for the alert so you see when we go live. That's the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. I don't have any co-hosts to sign off for. So I am Derek. Have a good one. Be safe and good luck on your fantasy.